I ate at Texas Roadhouse. You already know we're here for the rolls. They're so shiny and fluffy and light and just so warm. And listen, the honey butter tastes exactly like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's beautiful. And then you gotta get the combo appetizer platter with the cheesy tater skins that are loaded with this crispy bacon. And they actually have this like nice peppery seasoning. It's like half cheese though. And I'm such a sucker for fried pickles. I think it's the combination of the crispy outer crunch and then that kind of firm, tangy crunch from the pickle. And I tried their boneless wings for the first time. They're actually super tender and decently spicy. And I love the Cajun sauce. It's so smooth and rich. I also didn't know they had a mascot, but it's an armadillo. He's cute. And I didn't know their chili was so good. There's so much meat and a good amount of heat too. It's like a little smoky, a little sweet, and so cheesy, of course. And I tried their country fried chicken for the first time. I will never order anything else here again. It was so freaking crispy and so moist, and the gravy was so savory and thick. I think it's like the most comforting bite ever. On the other hand, I'll probably never order the mac and cheese again. It was like one of the most flavorless pastas I've ever had. It was kind of plasticky too. And Chris got the slow cooked barbecue pork sandwich with a super crispy buttery bun. It was pretty fire. There was so much meat. I also tried Chris's dad's filet medallions, and I'm not the biggest steak girl, so they were just okay for me, but they weren't chewy or anything, so if you're a big steak fan, you might like them. And finally, I tried his mom's smothered chicken, which she didn't love because it was super salty, and I can confirm it was very tender, but so much salt. And that's all for today. Eating all the food from Twilight? It was a 7-course meal, and during that first cafeteria scene, we all got cafeteria trays too, with antipasti and these cold cut sandwiches on this really fluffy sourdough, with this soft, fresh prosciutto and provolone. And then while they were in biology class, we took a little chemistry class of our own. We made these tequila sunrises in beakers filled with dry ice. A little too sweet for me personally, but maybe my equation was just off. And of course, we had to get some mushroom ravioli to pretend we're on our own awkward first date with a vampire. And honestly, the handmade pasta was cooked perfectly, like really soft with a little chew, and the marsala cream sauce was so savory and garlicky. And then when Edward sparkles for the first time, we got skin of a killer martini with sparkling lychee and elderflower, and lychee just has like such a yummy citrusy, almost floral flavor. And then when Rosalie smashes that Caesar salad on the ground because Bella already ate, we got our own Caesar salad with nice crunchy romaine, a little tangy, a little creamy. And then when Bella tells her dad to cut back on the steak, we got our own strip steak with red wine and shallot reduction and this roasted garlic sauteed spinach, and it was honestly so tender. The garlic herb fries were almost a little too fried for me, but they had a nice rosemary flavor. And then when the Cullens play Thunderball, we got these dark chocolate baseball cake pops that were actually so moist and rich and chocolatey. And then during that final fight scene, we got these blood orange rum drinks with this yummy tart pomegranate flavor. And that's all for today. Trying the best chicken Caesar wrap in the world. We drove all the way to Boca Raton and waited in line for like 45 minutes. They make you these massive salads you can customize however you want, and then they chop them up with like pizza cutters. It's so loud too. Like the whole cafe sounds like a logging area or something. They're making like 5 wraps a minute, and they actually microwave the wraps for a second so they get super stretchy and don't break when they shove an entire salad bowl into them. Like I could watch them fold up these wraps all day. It's mesmerizing. And yes, this is the best chicken Caesar wrap I've ever had. I think it's just the amount of creamy cheesiness and how finely it's all chopped up. So each bite is perfectly balanced. The lettuce is so fresh and crunchy. And yeah, I mean, your mouth is just attacked with tangy, creamy, kind of sharp cheesiness. It's so cheesy. I also tried the chicken teriyaki wrap that was packed full of these crispy fried noodles and the crunchiest mix of lettuce, cabbage, carrots, sliced almonds. And the teriyaki sauce wasn't too sweet or overpowering, and it was all chopped up so finely, so the balance of flavors and textures was perfect. And finally, I tried their new buffalo chicken wrap with these chicken tenders that were tossed in decently spicy buffalo sauce. Also so cheesy, and I'm not sure the tomatoes worked texture-wise, but I love tomatoes, so I didn't mind. And yeah, I would 100% come back and wait in line even longer. They were so good, and that's all for today. Everything I ate in Shrekland. So it's actually called DreamWorks Land at Universal, and they've got this like swamp snack shack with Shrek-shaped pretzels, and they come with green nacho cheese dip. The dip definitely had like a plasticky cheese vibe, you know, but the pretzel was warm and soft and salty. But this swamp dog though, this was my favorite. The pizza bun thing that it was wrapped in was so well seasoned with like oregano and red pepper flakes, and it had this nice crispy buttery crust. And then we headed to the Trolls area where they sell ice cream out of a boombox, and I got this huckleberry soft serve that had these like crunchy sour leaf sprinkles that kind of reminded me of sweet tart. It was decently creamy. It had like a little tart kick. Honestly, it was worth it on a hot floor today. They also have a Kung Fu Panda area, and they sell these black and white panda bows, but I'm not even kidding, they were $14. The chicken teriyaki one didn't have a ton of filling, but it was really fluffy and moist, and the char siu one was sugary. It was a little too sweet for me, but again, at least it was soft. And then we went to see one of my best best friends in the DreamWorks show? Yeah, that's my friend Maddie. We went to theater school together, and the show was so fun. They had all the different characters, and Maddie got to sing the iconic songs like I'm a Believer, and King Julian was there. He's my favorite. And that's all for today. Finally trying all the viral New York City foods I've been craving for so long. First, I went to Chinatown to try Golden Diner's honey butter pancakes. These massive fluffy cakes are just drenched in honey maple butter, and they also have a little bit of soy sauce to give it like a salty kick. I'm gonna be honest though, it does kind of feel like you're eating straight butter because they're just so soft and spongy. They like soak it all up, and it's a lot of butter. I also tried their chicken katsu club, which is stacked high with bacon, cabbage slaw, this crispy chicken cutlet, and the katsu sauce is like the perfect combination of savory and sweet. And then we headed to Rockefeller because I've been wanting to try this fancy frozen chocolate for so long. I got the s'mores one with the fluffiest toasted marshmallow on the outside and then this massive scoop of whipped cream. It's kind of a work of art. And it's like the thickest, richest milkshake you've ever had. It's so indulgent, especially when you get into that thick, sugary marshmallow fluff, and the whipped cream is so fluffy too. I might have gone into a sugar coma after this. But finally, we headed to one of the most iconic pizza joints in all of New York City. I can't believe it took me this long to finally try John's on Bleecker, but we got the picante pie with jalapenos and spicy red pepper flakes. And the ratio of sauce to cheese to crust was perfect. The crust had this amazing light, toasty crunch, and the sauce wasn't too sweet, and the spice added so much flavor. I definitely got to come back and try some of the more classic pies, but that's all for today. Everything I ate at a soup dumpling festival, they had a bunch of different dim sum, like these fluffy pan-fried pork buns that are one of my all-time favorite foods, but they didn't have that like juicy, soupy center that I was hoping for. They also gave me straight up oil when I asked for chili oil, but you know, they were really fluffy with a nice crispy bottom. But the braised beef noodle soup was one of my favorite dishes of the whole day. The broth had so much spicy, savory flavor, and the beef was decently tender. I also love me some crunchy bok choy, and then the fruit tea was really flavorful too. It had these like super crunchy tart passion fruit seeds at the bottom. And then we got to take a dumpling making class. They gave us aprons and everything. You don't actually learn how to make the dough or the filling, but you learn how to fold them, which is honestly the hardest part. Even just the way you hold the dumpling when you add the filling matters. And I was struggling so hard. Like, why does my dumpling look like a 5-year-old wrapped it? Come on. But then I learned an easier version where you just kind of fold it up like a tortellini. It was much better. You can also use a fork to seal the edges for like a fun texture. Anyway, then they steamed our dumplings for us, and our instructor made us this chili oil peanut sauce that was insane. It was so nutty and spicy, and the dumplings were actually like really tender and delicious. We also got to spin the prize wheel, and I won some chopsticks. And so even though they ran out of soup dumplings, it was still a fun, yummy event, and that's all for today. Eating all the food from Frozen. It was a 6-course meal starting out with some Norwegian meatballs and this like savory brown gravy, and they had a nice little bounce too. And then when they built Olaf, we got to build our own snowman with marshmallows and chocolate frosting, and he came with a pumpkin spice martini that was so good. It was like the yummiest cinnamon nutmeg flavor. And then on Coronation Day, we got this beautiful plating of Norwegian salmon and whipped potatoes with this like lemon dill sauce and a cranberry sauce. It was one of my favorite dishes I've ever had at Fork and Film. The salmon was perfectly flaky and like soft and so rich. And because it's crazy, we finished each other's sandwiches. We got a whole basket filled with these massive roast chicken sandwiches, and I had this like herb cream cheese spread that tasted like that Boursin garlic and herb spread that is so addictive, and the bread was so soft. And then during Let It Go, we got these cool glowing azure dream margaritas that were really pretty and also so yummy. And then when Olaf says some people are worth melting for, we got these warm, comforting cauliflower soups, which were a little bit salty for me personally. But finally, because love will thaw frozen heart, we got heart-shaped waffles with this ice cream that was actually incredible. It had these chunks of like cinnamony cheesecake. It was so rich. And that's all for today. For 1 week, I said yes to every single restaurant who DM'd me, and thank God, because I got invited to the grand opening dinner at one of the best steakhouses in New York City. We even got to go on a tour and meet the chef and see where all the fancy dry-aged meats are kept. And then just for an appetizer, we got lobster, oysters, and this super fresh, really sweet crab meat. It was like so delicate. And then came the real show. They brought out a whole tomahawk steak, and these steaks were still sizzling. It was all served family style too, so they load up your plate with all these different sides. It looked like Thanksgiving. The tomahawk was rich. I also didn't know it's so tender because that muscle is just used less, but it makes sense. And oh my God, the potatoes were so freaking crispy and well seasoned. Like the steak was good, but the potatoes and the lobster and the mac and cheese was succulent, like so fresh, so sweet. And I actually don't know if I've ever had lamb chops before, but the sear was incredible. Nice, crispy, buttery crust, so juicy and tender inside. And the chicken parm was so cheesy with this really rich, herby tomato sauce. And the fries were so soft inside, like mashed potatoes or something. And then just look at the dessert platter. We got 4 different cakes. I thought this was a cheesecake, but it was actually key lime pie pie. It was like super sharp and bright. And then this is the best carrot cake I've ever had, okay? It was so unbelievably moist and rich. And the tiramisu was strong with this like intense espresso liqueur flavor. And yeah, that's all for today. Everything I ate at one of the first Indian restaurants in the US to earn a Michelin star. Even their drink menu is so creative. Each one is based off the different components of a plant, and they were so good. This mezcal Aperol drink was like so peppery spicy. And I started with these smoked masala ribs with this vindaloo spice rub that packed a punch. It had this super aromatic spice, and the meat fell off the bone. And then this ghost chicken chili tikka was so insanely tender. Like, have you ever had chicken melt in your mouth? Part of it has to be the yogurt marinade, I think, and then maybe like the tandoor oven. I don't know, man, but for my main, I got this chicken curry, and look at how buttery and crispy the paratha was. And then the curry was made with figs, so it had this nice sweetness and kind of an earthy aftertaste. And then for Chris's main, he got the shrimp curry with this sattar spice naan, and the shrimp was plump, y'all. It was so tender. And the naan was so soft. And then, oh, this rice pudding is legitimately made by a grandma. She comes in, makes a bunch of pudding, and then leaves. And it was so sweet and like thick. And the cricket mousse was so cute. The grass is made from coconuts, and then the mousse is made from this sweet tropical fruit called chiku. And finally, we got this chocolate ghost pepper mousse, which wasn't too spicy, but the kulfi, which is like an ice cream, was so insanely rich and sweet. It was intense. And yeah, that's all for today. For 1 week, I said yes to every single restaurant who DM'd me, and I was not expecting the iconic Tony's Di Napoli to send me an email. They make this tableside Caesar salad, and Chris said these are the best meatballs he's had in New York City. It's the seasoning for me. There's just so much flavor and like herby, peppery spice packed in. Oh yeah, this is my baby niece Avery. The meatballs were her favorite too. And then the stuffed mushrooms were so juicy. They were filled with this creamy ricotta and mozzarella and spinach and peppers and onions. And then look at how fat these rigatoni are. It was this special with spicy vodka sauce and the milkiest, richest stracciatella. And then the owner also said we had to try this veal special with more burrata. And I don't usually order veal, but it was so incredibly tender and juicy. I think it was like a veal parm. But my favorite dish of the night was actually this cavatelli broccoli rabe with spicy sausage, because there was so much heat just packed into that savory meat. And of course, their chicken parm was incredible. I mean, it's just so tender. I don't even understand how. And oh, also it was Chris's birthday week, so we had to embarrass him with a whole song and candle. And this dessert was kind of like a giant ice cream sandwich, but the bread part is these two massive slices of homemade devil's food cake, and it was topped with this sugary raspberry sauce and hot fudge and this fluffy homemade whipped cream. They also brought out a pumpkin tiramisu, and just look at how soft and airy and light, and it had this super strong espresso flavor. It actually wasn't too sweet. It was all Avery approved as well, of course. And that's all for today. Eating all the food from Ratatouille? So it's a movie food experience where you eat the food from the movie while you watch it. There was like 6 different courses and drinks, and the first course was called Remy's Trash Can, and you eat this trash can salad while he's still at the colony eating trash. And then when he mixes the strawberry with the cheese, you eat a little charcuterie board, and it's just so cute to like pretend that you're Remy and you're eating your little cheese. And then when he roasts that cheese mushroom skewer on the chimney and gets struck by lightning, they serve a stuffed mushroom on a sparkler. Adorable. And it was so cheesy and like smoky and lightningy. And then there's that scene where Remy cooks soup for the first time in the restaurant, and we all got these cute little pots and ingredients to make our own soup. And you guys, I'm not even lying, this is some of the best soup I've ever had. It was so cheesy and like with the crunchy breadcrumbs and the freshness from the basil. It was perfectly salty too. And then there's that recipe where Remy adds the special sauce like right before it goes out the door, and it was this super tender, really moist chicken thigh and this like smooth potato puree and this creamy butter sauce on top that added so much richness that went really well with the crunchy green beans. They also serve so many pretty bevs throughout the movie, and of course there's that iconic ratatouille that brings Ego back to his childhood. And I can't say I've ever had ratatouille. I'm not even a big squash fan, but it was pretty fire. Like the sauce was really robust and flavorful, and it was so aromatic too. And finally, we got these cute little vanilla creme brulees for dessert, super crunchy and sugary and like really rich and creamy, and the berries were so juicy. And that's all for today. Things at a 5-star luxury resort in Thailand that just make sense. First of all, they wait for you at the airport with a car, and then when they check you in, they bring you a welcome drink and also cold towels that are for your face. Then when you check into your beautiful room, they've got a welcome letter and like a bowl of fruit and a bunch of different snacks. I tried this like shredded coconut egg yolk dessert, and you guys, the room was insane. They literally like decorate the bed to say welcome. They've got a full-size kitchen with like a full-size fridge and a washer dryer, which is perfect because I have so much laundry. And then in the morning, you can go to the buffet, or you can order in and have a floating breakfast at your private pool, and all the villas are just a few feet away from their massive main pool, which is so gorgeous. It has a swim-up bar, and of course, if you get bored at the pool, you can also head to the beach. They have like the biggest, fluffiest beach towels I've ever seen, and they also have beach bags if you forgot one, which of course I did. And even though the beach is like a 5-minute walk, you can also call for a golf cart and they'll just drive you there. And it's free to rent surfboards and boogie boards, and when I tell you, this is like the nicest beach I've ever been to, and I'm from Florida. And they also have a whole nother pool by the beach that's like even bigger than the other pool, and I feel like the resort was giving White Lotus vibes. There's like so much greenery everywhere. Oh, also they have a whole schedule with all these free activities. Like I went rock climbing, which just makes me feel like a kid again. It was so much fun. And if you don't want to eat at one of the 3 restaurants on property, you can get amazing Thai food right at the beach, and also $5 massages. I never want to leave, and that's all for today. Only eating street food for a full day in Turkey. First up, I found this guy selling Turkish pizza. It's called lahmacun, and it's made with minced meat and this really thin, crispy crust. He told me to put the salad inside and then roll it up, and oh my gosh, it was so flavorful, so spicy and meaty and like fresh. And the crust is so light, it's not too filling at all. Like I could eat the whole thing. Then I explored some more and I found this lokma stand. So these are these shiny little fried donuts covered in sugary syrup that like hardens a little bit, so they have the perfect crunch. They were warm and sweet, and they had that amazing deep fried flavor, but they weren't oily at all, like so fluffy. I also found a kumpir stand. So they have all these topping options and you pick what you want and they stuff it all into a baked potato. And I asked the lady to make it how she likes, so she gave me sausage, couscous, this thick yogurt, this really crunchy red cabbage, and some sweet corn. And oh my gosh, the potato is so rich and fluffy and soft and cheesy, like so many flavors. And then on my way back, I found all of these gorgeous pastries. This one is called burek and it's filled with beef and it's a little spicy, and oh my gosh, the pastry is so freaking flaky and tender, and it goes so well with that savory, like juicy meat. I also saw this pastry that was just labeled boom, so of course I had to try it. And you guys, it's the same one I tried in the Starbucks in Istanbul. It's full of Nutella, and oh my gosh, it was warm, like so thick and rich and chocolatey. I am obsessed with these, and that's all for today.